Welcome to Modern Stoic Insights. Hey, quick question. Have you ever wondered, wait a minute, was I even making my own choices? After reflecting on a circumstance with a woman, yes, it wasn't random if you felt like your emotions were being manipulated and your mind was jumbled. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to reveal the psychological games that manipulate your logic, exploit your emotions, and bend your reality. Trust me, once you see them, you can't unsee them. Brace yourself. This is about to get uncomfortable, but in a way that saves you years of wasted energy. Let's get started on the guilt trap, which twists your morals against you. Usually, it starts small. You're doing something completely normal, working late, meeting up with friends, investing time into your dreams, and then comes the look, the sigh, the casual, offhanded, wow, it must be nice to have all this free time. At first, you dismiss it, maybe even offering an apology, thinking, I don't want her to feel neglected. However, it is the beginning. The guilt trap is a slow drip. It's not about one dramatic argument. Rather, it's about 1,000 little nudges, each of which makes you question whether you're selfish simply for living your life. The evil genius of it is that the guilt doesn't attack your reasoning. Rather, it attacks your identity, leading you to wonder if you're a good man at all. Once that doubt is sown, it grows unchecked, and you begin putting her feelings ahead of your own morals. That's just where she wants you to be, because you're easier to manipulate when guilt dictates your decisions and you stop asking yourself, what do I want? How can I avoid making her upset? Is the first question you ask. Real love doesn't turn your moral compass against you. Rather, it strengthens your integrity. And at that instant, you're no longer free. Instead, you're responding. The antidote doesn't turn into a weapon. Catch it early. If you find yourself constantly changing your goals to make someone temporarily happy or apologizing for things that aren't wrong, stop and ask yourself, am I being fair to myself right now? Am I honoring what matters to me, or am I being guilt-tripped into surrendering who I am? Healthy relationships are built on respect for one another, not on gaslighting, rewriting your reality, or emotional ransom notes masquerading as love. You're not insane or having hallucinations, but if a woman is gaslighting you, you'll begin to question your own sanity sooner rather than later. The practice of gaslighting is psychological warfare. It doesn't just argue with you. It attacks your sense of reality itself. For example, you catch her texting an ex, and somehow after the conversation, you're the one who apologizes for being overly paranoid. She says something cruel, and you react, and all of a sudden, you're the sensitive person who can't handle a joke. You bring up a problem, and she flips it, saying you're the real problem. It's dizzying, and you leave every argument feeling more confused than when you arrived. You begin to think, maybe I am overreacting, maybe I am too emotional, maybe I do expect too much. Think for a moment. What does your intuition tell you when you're alone yourself and no one is whispering in your ear about gaslighting? Because here's the issue. Gaslighting is intended to deprive you of your intuition and force you to compromise your truth for the approval of another person. Once you are isolated from your own reality, you become more susceptible to manipulation and control, making it easier to keep you stuck. However, not all arguments are gaslighting. Although everyone has a different perspective, if you see a pattern where every problem somehow becomes your fault, if apologies only come from one side, or if you feel less confident the longer you stay, you're not being loved, you're being controlled. The only way to stop gaslighting is to be brutally honest with yourself, not to act arrogantly, not ego, but rather a calm, grounded devotion to what your spirit understands and what your eyes see. Have faith in yourself. You don't need approval to accept what you've seen. 3. There is a perverted psychological method that produces obsessional unpredictability in the hot and cold game addiction via ambiguity. Intermittent reinforcement is a technique that was taken directly from a lab rat experiment. Give a rat a reward every time he presses a lever, and he gets bored quickly. Sometimes, at random intervals, he will keep pressing the lever like a man possessed. Guess what? Some women use this exact dynamic. At first, it's amazing. She gives you attention and texts you constantly, making you feel like the king of her world. Then there is silence for a day or 2 days without an explanation, and then she returns, sweet as ever, acting as though nothing happened. You're relieved, but perplexed, so you assume she was simply busy, but then it happens again. Welcome. If you notice the cycle break, it walk away before you confuse. Addiction with love. Your peace isn't something you should have to earn. It's the baseline requirement for anyone who wants access to your life. 4. Emotional withholding, weaponizing affection. You know, that sinking feeling when someone you care about suddenly becomes distant, not mad, not arguing, just cold, like a wall went up overnight and you're standing outside barefoot in the snow, knocking, begging to be let back in. This is emotional withholding. It's one of the quietest and most brutal manipulation tactics out there because unlike yelling or insults, withholding affection doesn't leave bruises. It leaves emptiness, a hollow ache. And here's how the cycle usually works. You do something that displeases her, maybe something small. Instead of addressing it openly, she withdraws. She becomes cold, distant, disinterested, as if punishing you. You feel rejected, confused, anxious. You chase. You apologize, overcompensate, jump through hoops, trying to get her back. And every time you chase, you're training yourself to accept emotional starvation as normal. You start to believe, if I work harder, she'll love me again. If I sacrifice more, I'll get her warmth back. It's an emotional hostage situation. Instead of being loved for who you are, you're being tested like a dog, earning treats, and make no mistake. This isn't about love. It's about control. It's about teaching you that her love is conditional and that your happiness and tranquility are privileges that she can give or take away based on how well you behave. Remember that true love is a steady fire, not a carrot hanging at the end of a stick. It may flicker during difficult times, but it doesn't vanish as punishment. Once you find yourself pleading for basic warmth, you're no longer in a healthy relationship. Instead, you're in an emotional prison. You don't have to stay there. You deserve unconditional love and affection that doesn't require obedience. Keep in mind that if someone can control you through silence, they own you. Reclaim your power. Stop knocking on a door that only opens when it suits someone else's ego, and move toward the light rather than the cold. 5. Future faking strategies for selling dreams. They do not imply that it is simple to identify manipulation when it is cruel. Rather, it is more difficult to identify manipulation when it is concealed by promises. Large, lovely promises that make your pulse beat at 3 a.m. because you think you may have finally discovered something genuine are future faking, and it's one of the most seductive traps there is. Here's how it works. She paints beautiful pictures of a life together, talks about traveling the world, purchasing a home, getting married, and possibly even naming your future children. You get caught up in the dream and let your guard down, investing, compromising, and making sacrifices because you're investing in the future rather than the present. She never intended to build it for her. Instead, she used the dreams to keep you hopeful and loyal and to make you ignore warning signs because, after all, you're building something big, right? Remember, but time passes and the promises remain and the actions never match the words. You painfully realize that you were sold a beautiful illusion, and the heartbreak isn't just about losing her. It's about losing the future you thought you were moving toward. Real love is made up of 1,000 little deeds that come together to become something strong and unbreakable. It is not a sales pitch. You want to believe that love is pure, simple, fair, and it can be, but only if you first protect yourself from those who would rather manipulate you than love you. Manipulation thrives in the dark, so the more you trust yourself, the faster you can distinguish genuine love from fake affection, because you know you don't chase emotional scraps. Don't buy castles made of air. Instead, build your own fortress of truth and invite only those who can meet you on solid ground. Look, this wasn't an easy conversation. I know it's uncomfortable to hear this. You become the kind of guy who is his own house, strong, secure, and unbreakable, and from there you draw true love or nothing at all. To be honest, you won't ever settle for less again. You don't beg for basic respect. You don't settle for a dream someone else is too lazy to construct. We're creating a brotherhood of men who see clearly, think critically, and love with their eyes wide open. No sugarcoating, no fairy tales, just the raw, unfiltered truth you need to live free. If this speaks to you honestly, if you're done playing games and ready to step into real strength, then stay put and hit the subscribe button. Let's continue traveling this path together.